Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome to another classic episode of the Winner Is You podcast. If this is your first time listening, well, think of us as your classic friendly neighbourhood video game book club. Not this week, we'll get to that. We pick a game, then scurry off and play it before we get back together to have a deep dive discussion, talk ins and outs, ups and downs, and hopefully offer little light entertainment all along the way. It's all lighter entertainment this week, folks, because we don't have a game for you. Whether you've played the game alongside us. You may have played some of these games alongside us.
Hopefully.
The annual A Winner Is You SPOOKTOBERFest. I guess, is this the final installment of SPOOKTOBERFest, Alex? Is this somewhere in the middle? What is this?
This will be...
When is this coming out? Because you'll be anywhere but horror, I guess, by then. Well, you'd be sweating up a horror, maybe.
That's my everyday horror, yeah. This is... Well, if you count Alan Wake 2, which we'll have to do in November because it comes out too late in the month.
Yes.
That could be the final entry, but yeah, this probably is the Spooktober final entry.
The final official entry into Spooktoberfest. We have a nice old, this is only the second one we've done, I think, video game draft. And we're going to be talking all things horror games. So... well, that sinks in, and you match accent to podcast. I think I trip over that every single week. My name continues to be David, and sitting, let's say, 31 miles across from me is Mr. Alex Aldridge. How you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm a Frankenstein, Alex.
Nice. See, it's now into the 3 degrees odd in Scotland now, so I'm into my I've got my fleece on.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting. I see you're sitting with a nice themed t-shirt on for horror. Strong. Is it Shaun of the Dead? Did I see?
Yeah. I mean, I did have to wear a hoodie out of the house today, and we had to put the heating on yesterday. So it just seems to be like. Oh,
you don't have a choice either. I grip on to not putting the heating on as long as human possible. I don't have a child in the house other than myself.
Exactly. Because my father-in-law put the heating on while he was looking after my daughter. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had it on. But he deemed it necessary for a 2-year-old's immune system or whatever.
For it not to die. That's a
win. But seems like it was summer last week. Like we had a weird Indian summer where it was like 20. We, not the Scottish, the English had a weird Indian summer where it was like 25 degrees and I was dripping with sweat. And then all of a sudden it's freezing, which is great. I've been waiting for this.
This is you get your life back for 6 months or so.
Yeah, I can wear other clothes than shorts. Madness.
Do you wear socks inside still, or do you still go barefoot?
Yeah, I got some socks on.
Oh,
I left them on after I got back from work, but I'm wearing joggers, so
living the dream, mate.
We're sufficiently dark and cold for this spooky draft. That's for sure. Ha! Draft. Drafty. Is it drafty? No, otherwise I'd live in a really shit house.
Yeah, your house is too new to be drafty just yet. Give it time. Give it a few years.
I haven't done anything disgusting in the toilets recently to talk about and have put up as a YouTube short with a big picture of an anus, so that's good.
That's a victory.
Could not believe when I saw that today. I've got no one to blame for myself. Who asked me to tell these stories on a available podcast to the entire world? A podcast available to the entire world.
That's my assumption, because I thought about it. I was like, I think there's like a 2% chance Alex won't like this, but then I was like, well, nah. He put it on a podcast that we put out. If he was going to be against that idea, then he just wouldn't have said it in the first place. So I was like, no, it's going into the TikToks / shorts.
What's funny is that before you did that, I did think to myself, like, I could probably make a best of Alex's woes compilation, and it'll be all those times I've completely embarrassed myself on here, talking about going for a piss at Tottenham or shitting on my own shoes. Or
going for a piss at Tottenham was a good one. Did someone not try and pee over a cubicle? Was that one as well?
Yeah, pissing over the cubicle and me grassing them up.
It doesn't even have to be toilets. One of my favourites are when you were scared to go to the swimming pool in case you got stabbed by a gypsy or something like that.
Yeah, that's that.
That was a strong one.
I was already there. I was swimming and saw the camper vans out the window in the car park and thought, I can't escape quick enough. I'm not a good enough swimmer. If they dive in with like flippers on and knives,
you're done.
Fucked.
You're done.
Yeah, if they've got like what are they called? If they've got amphibious camper vans and decide they want to run me over, well, that's the end of me.
Game over.
Yeah.
Absolutely done.
Jippos. Ay. That scares me more than any horror game, that's for sure.
They could make a Jippo horror game. Maybe be a pretty good one. Curse of the Gypsies.
True.
They probably in fact you could probably tie that in because they
Curse.
definitely do put curses on each other, I would guess. So
Gypsy Curse has got to be in some horror film somewhere.
it's got to
I
be.
feel like one of the evil. I feel like the remake of the Evil Dead is kind of a Gypsy Curse. Isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, there's something.
The woman
quite,
in the car that she
Romany
stabs
gypsy.
with the pen.
Yeah. There's even gypsies made in. There's some James Bonds that's got gypsies in it, so they get around the old Jippos, as well as breaking down fences to park in fields.
And being in boxing matches in Snatch or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to use the parky. I watched The Ring after we played Thea, the American version.
So that's I think that's the only one I've maybe seen all of them now. I'm trying to think. What is it? The Ring, the Japanese one that's got the little scary kid.
Don't narrow it down. It's the one which comes out the TV. If you watch the video, you've got 7 days.
The TV. Is there more? Are there more scary people in the American Ring? Like, or is it just the girl coming out the TV? Like, is there a wee boy who's a bit like Mowgli but with makeup on?
No.
Right. Okay. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
The Grudge, maybe. I think.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Okay.
That's the one where they like make that noise. Yeah.
Terrifying.
No, The Ring. Yeah, there's like a scary woman in the video that if you watch you then die. But no, it's mainly just
if you were how does that work? Is it a demon that lives in the video? What is it? Because like the advent of DVDs must have been absolutely gutting for this demon.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because part of it, it's more gutting for anybody who watches the film, because if you have watched The Ring, the only way you survive dying after 7 days is if you make a copy of the tape and then show somebody else. But once streaming and like Kazaa and LimeWire came into the picture and Napster, well then does that count? Do you get? I mean, and if it does count, then you can just get rid of the curse like that. Yeah. Just torrent it.
Just torrent it out.
You'd be absolutely fine. It's still a good film though.
Good.
It was. I feel like I want to watch the Japanese one afterwards, but instead I've switched over to watching Twin Peaks because we played some.
I need to get to that. The only sort of horror adjacent thing I've managed to do is I went to see A Haunting in Venice at the cinema on Sunday morning.
How did Venice survive that?
Sorry?
How did Venice survive said haunting?
Not well. It's a Poirot. It's a Poirot movie.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying about that.
Yeah, it's and I was a big fan, or I sort of enjoy those, like, they're just sort of brainless fun, those things. It's like, haha, I figured out this implausible series of events and I know exactly what you've done. I just find them quite fun. But this one...
Does he then always sit people down to tell them in like a drawing room how he's figured it out?
A lot of the time, yes. Yeah,
good. Good.
So this is the third one. It's the only one that is not a remake of a previous movie. And I think it's the worst. There's a podcast I listen to with very well established and well known respected critics who think it's great. I do not like it. I do not like it so much. I was quite bored. So, yeah, you've done a better job than me.
Oh, I watched some of Evil Dead Rise, but it was terrible. And so I didn't finish it. And then I saw KDB said it was great.
Oh, no, poor KDB.
But I've got like half an hour to go, but I don't know when I'll go back because the characters are awful. And if you're trying to make an Evil Dead film that's not going to have Bruce Campbell in it as Ash, and then you've got like annoying teenagers, you've fucked it.
Yeah.
Like, you've gone as far away from Bruce Campbell as you could possibly go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say
it did have, as the main freaky like woman who gets possessed and turned into the big Evil Dead monster, the like queen who marries Ragnar Lothbrok in Vikings.
Really?
Queen, what was her name?
I was going to say
not the one we like, who can't fight.
I think I've just
quickly.
made that up. So, yeah, I know the sort of red-headed one.
Yeah, who looks a bit like a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, her.
A cat
She's
slash Khajiit from the Elder Scrolls universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, her. She's like the mother of all these annoying children. And
Bit like Vikings then, just the same thing.
good point. She's used to it. Typecast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've done a lot better than me. I need to get to Twin Peaks.
Keeping it.
I think
Yeah.
It's been something it's been on my since Alan Wake became a thing. So back in 2010,
Yeah.
it has been on my sort of radar of, I need to watch that, and then I'm like, nah, I don't. And then I was like, yeah, I do. And then I'm like, nah. And then I was fully nah. And then you started going on about it today. And I was like, oh, I just need to get this out of my system. If I watch it and I hate it, actually, that's a good thing because I can just move on with my life.
Yeah.
But then I may like it, but there's not much of it, is there? It's quite short as well.
No.
There's
yeah. Well, there's 3 series, but they only have like 10 episodes.
Is it 3 old series and 1 new series? Is that how it goes? Or is there two old, 1 new?
2 old, a prequel film, and then the new series.
Okay.
The only reason I knew about Twin Peaks was from The Simpsons, where Homer's watching it, and there's like a guy dancing with a horse under a traffic light, and he's like, "It's damn fine coffee you got here in Twin Peaks, and damn good cherry pie." And then Homer goes, "Brilliant! I have absolutely no idea what is happening."
Yeah.
So I've been watching it forever, thinking,
I was about
I'm
to
never
say,
going to
like,
understand this. Is it going to be too batshit? But I've only just watched the pilot, and that was very straightforward. Just sets up a pretty good murder mystery that hasn't done anything fucky yet, other than there's a shot in a school, I think, where these 2 people are talking, and in the background there's just a guy like at his locker, and he does like a little Michael Jackson spin, clicks his fingers, and then he does this dance move off the screen. You're gonna have to watch the YouTube video for this, lads. He does this.
Oh.
And then he just exits the stage. It was amazing. It came from absolutely nowhere, and I absolutely pissed myself. But I don't know what the hell it is. Maybe we'll have to put it out on Twitter or something. Yeah, I'll find it. We'll put it on Twitter.
I'm going to say, I think that I am going to be confused by this because this is falling into the JRPG category of I am not sure if I'm meant to be finding this funny or not.
Yeah. Have you watched any David Lynch stuff?
I don't think so.
I don't think I've watched a lot. He did a Duran Duran video and a 9 Inch Nails one. Don't know. There is big ones, I think, like Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, and that other one I just said a minute ago.
I've not seen any David Lynch
Razorhead, Dune. No, me neither.
It'll be funny watching this because, like, The Simpsons, a lot of The Simpsons, or there are, I don't want to be reductive like that, there are a lot of Simpsons episodes that are riffs on established IPs, so it would be fun to see how many you pick up because you've done The Simpsons first.
There's definitely a bit where they talk about, I think it's when Mr. Burns gets shot and Chief Wiggum is trying to think about it like in the evening, and then he drinks some warm cream and falls asleep, and he has like a dream, and Lisa's like speaking backwards in it, and that is a riff on, I think, the prequel film.
Oh, excellent.
I think
maybe that
or
actually,
Milhouse is talking backwards, something like that.
In my attempt and failure to do horror this month, other than games, maybe I could. Maybe there's a playlist that exists where I could watch all the Simpsons 3 Years of Horror. That would be fun. That's actually a good shout, David. Well done.
I don't know if there's a playlist, but it's on Disney Plus. So you
see. So if the thought of is like season 1, then scrolling through to see if there's a Treehouse of Horror, I'm not going to do it. I can't be bothered. But if there's an easy sort of click and play option, then maybe.
Well, that'll be. They should do that. Mm-hmm. They should collate them together.
We'll find out. I'll check back on the next episode of the classic Owen Energy podcast and let you know how it goes. It'll probably be the next because we're doing this out of order, aren't we? Peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Next for you, dear listener.
God's sake.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about what Alex and I have, or Alex has been watching and what I've not been watching. We're here to talk the video game draft. Do you want to? This is your baby, Alex. Do you want to give them a quick rundown of the rules here and what we're going for?
Yes. So this is very similar to the sports video game draft we did about a month ago before all of this horror stuff kicked off. So this is just that with a horror theme. So there are 10 categories. I have decided that franchises may only be represented twice per player,
which I think is
podcaster,
generous.
whatever.
If you had said once, I'd have been on board for that. So you've done twice,
Really?
but I'm okay with
Really?
that. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's do once.
Oh, good
Let's do
God.
once. So,
Okay. Oh no!
There we
In
go.
my first picks, I've got. Oh, actually, I'm looking through my first picks right now, and I think I only double up on a franchise once. So it just means I
me
need to
too.
switch one out. And I suspect you're going to pick both of them, so I may have to pick others. Anyway, we'll get there.
yeah. David and I will take it in turns. We'll flip a coin in a minute to see who goes first. Obviously, you cannot pick the same game that somebody else has picked. And we can each pick categories in any order. Doesn't matter. We don't have to follow the other person on. It's tactical and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then we'll stick it up on our Twitter account and probably the Instagram as well, which we'll give at the end of the show. You can go and vote on whose is better. I won the sports one, so David needs to catch up and get himself a win. But you will be voting out there, dear listener, on which 10-game list you find to be better. I was tempted to do it like one poll at a time, game versus game, but I don't think there's enough of the month left to do 10 of those.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good idea, wouldn't it?
Flip a coin. Right, call it.
Heads.
It is heads.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm going heads. I am going to dive straight in with.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. I'll cut this back in front of it. The categories that we're picking from this time
idea.
around are survival horror game, action horror game, psychological horror game, first person horror game, scary non-horror game, indie horror game, 20th century horror game, horror shooter, horror themed game, and a free pick at the end. Right, now you may pick.
I'm going straight in with scary non-horror game.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick Bloodborne.
Bollocks.
I basically in my sort of lists for this game, this category, I just basically listed my favourite Souls games in order because I was like, I don't know if there's many games I can think of where I'm like standing about to go toe to toe with a boss and thinking I want to be anywhere else but here. Yeah, here I am. Just the fear that game induces, like you don't know what's around every corner. I think the other one the other two sort of like, am I going to pick these? Am I not? I mean, like if I'm picking a winner category, I'm fully aware that I'm in the minority. In that my favorite Souls game is potentially Dark Souls 3. I would need to think about it, but I know that people wouldn't agree with that. So I think I always thought I can't pick that. The other obvious one was Elden Ring.
That's scary.
And that is very scary, and there are aspects of that game that are very horror-like. I just kind of thought the sort of theme of Bloodborne was much more in keeping with this draft that we're doing tonight. So I thought,
yeah, it's. I mean, it could be labelled a horror game if it wasn't so entrenched within being an action RPG Souls game, because the themes are all there. You've even got Lovecraft influences, who's an actual horror. You've got werewolves.
Yeah, that's
stuff,
great. Sure. It's also, I also was having a sort of internal giggle while I was going through these categories as well, and it's just the sort of like the way that categories have evolved over time, and that like it's almost the most true survival horror game there is, in that actually just getting from point to point is the point in surviving. Really is. I thought essence of or spirit of this podcast category selection plus what is Alex maybe going to pick, I'm going straight in my non-scary non-horror game. It has to be Bloodborne, one of my favourite games of all time.
Agreed. Really amazing.
Which is funny to say as well, because I have to be in the mood for a Souls game. Souls-like.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'd want to go back and play Bloodborne in 30 FPS now that everyone keeps going on and on and on about it. Even though I never had an issue with it before, I think I would now just because it's in my
you've been
head.
told, Just like how you waited till I completed Alan Wake to tell me about the left-handedness, but maybe we'll come back to that.
We
have talked about that previously.
Yes. Right, okay. So David has taken my pick for scary non-horror game, but I was really hoping he wasn't going to go for what I'm about to pick now, which is horror-themed game Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Oh, great choice.
I don't think I need to say a lot about Castlevania Symphony of the Night
Check
because
out
there's a
another
podcast. Yeah. But of course, if you're talking horror themed games, Dracula. I mean, it's got all the horror themes in one game. It's got zombies in it. It's got werewolves. It's got Dracula. It's got all that shit, ghosts, everything. Just two. There you go. Bloodborne and Symphony of the Night potentially are two of my top 5 games ever.
Yeah, big call, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Symphony of the Night's quality. So good. Absolutely adore that game.
Right.
Oh,
go for it.
What am I going to pick now? This feels nasty, and it's not meant to be nasty, but if we're playing this
you have to.
Tactically,
You've got to get a win.
So I'm going to go survival horror game, and I'm going to pick Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Remake, okay.
Yeah, I think the remake's better than the OG, so remake.
Well, we'll see you next year, won't we?
Yeah.
When we come back. Resident Evil 2 Remake. Again, there is already a podcast.
Yeah,
about
again,
that,
it's not too much to say. It is the game that reinvigorated the Resident Evil franchise. They made significant changes between the two games, but they did everything you would have hoped. They maintained the suspense, they maintained the fear. I think Mr. X is terrifying until you sort of figure him out, and then he sort of loses a bit of his fear. But that first encounter with him, and then the realization that he follows you around, plus the videos that were going around at that time where you realised that he was always in the map. He doesn't despawn.
And he comes into save rooms as well.
Does he?
Well, the main one, like the main hall, he comes in there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a save room.
Yeah.
Even if Marvin is.
Yeah, you're right. He does. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments that every player that's played this game will have had where they've been like standing in one of the one I remember is the save room that has got the photo development section at the bottom of the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you open the door, it's just there. Plus liquor. Yeah, that there. So anyway.
Oh,
that's my pick.
Yeah. That's 2 out of the 3 games so far. We've got podcasts on previously, listeners, so you know where to go if you want more of that. Yes. David has obviously taken Resident Evil out of the running for any of the other ones now for himself.
Yes. And I did have... So this was the only franchise I had another Resident Evil game for.
I would have thought that would be the case. I did have 2 originally.
Do you want to take a stab?
Something of mine.
Do you want to take a guess at what Resident Evil game I had?
Yeah, I would have said you went into first person horror and had 7.
I did think about that, but I actually had horror shooter and I had plopped in RE4 remake as well.
That would work.
Yeah.
That would work. I'm going to go for something else that I think probably would have been your first pick. And I'm going to go to 20th century horror game and pick Parasite Eve.
Oh, good choice.
So it sounds like that wasn't your pick for that.
It was not my pick, no.
I feel that there's also a cheeky other pick for that genre, for that category that we've covered before that technically is not the same franchise as something else.
Does it start with a dino and end with a crisis?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good shout as well.
3 out of the 4 there we have podcasts about previously. Parasite Eve. We almost did the second one this year, but it's apparently quite a lot worse than the first one because the first one is just so unique.
Yes.
Not just for having the wankiest end boss that could fuck your hours of play up just through being touched by it, which is stupid. In stage 3 of it as well. Mm-hmm. Just why are there no other JRPG horror games? There just should be more.
Oh, there should be, because this one's so good as well.
Yeah,
so good.
Desperately needs a remake.
It desperately needs a remake. I googled, so when we were talking about Parasite Eve, covering Parasite Eve 2, I googled it and watched a short video on it, and I was sort of skimming through a Let's Play, and the takeaway from it, I realised that there was the main character was running about with a Final Fantasy VII sword on his back, and I was like, well, this is not what I was expecting.
Really?
Yeah, I'll need to find it and show you what I saw, because it was just
Is
nothing.
that not the third one?
It could be. It could be. I did
The
Google,
PSP one. That might be.
Well, I was going to say Google, but I YouTubed Parasite Eve 2
Yeah.
long play or whatever. Basically, someone playing through the game without speaking, and I was just skimming through it, and I saw that, so I could have clicked on it. You know what I've like in terms of, we just had a discussion about, I know the Gears podcast. I read things and don't take in information, so there's every chance. There's every chance it could have been 3, and I just didn't look because I googled 3 or searched 2, sorry, and then clicked on 3. Anyway,
the thing that made me want to play it, that I may have to show to you, was basically a video that said Parasite Eve 2 is disappointing, and I watched it all the way through and was like, I still want to play that. Mm-hmm. And they're basically saying to me I should still try it. So yeah, we will see.
Yes,
Parasite Eve 1, I mean, it doesn't desperately need a remake in the sense that it's not great to play now, because it does hold up perfectly well. It's just, I wish there were more of these, and that they would go back to its roots and just do it again.
Yes, absolutely. Now I've got one of 2 here. Okay. I'm going to go for...
What's these 2 categories, right?
Yes, one of 2 categories I'm looking for here. Yeah, I'm basically just like...
Are these ones you think that you need
I want to get these games in,
yeah.
I think you're unlikely. There's a chance you won't pick that one, actually. So I'm going to go psychological horror game, and I'm going to pick Alan Wake.
Oh, okay.
I think that counts, right? That's psychological.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you read up on that, and that's what it says it is.
Yeah, I guess it's a shock because we as yet, although you're listening to a different order, as yet we've not done the podcast about it. But I bloody loved that game, man. So good.
Brilliant.
So
really,
good.
really good. I actually liked it more than I did when I played it the first time.
Yes, I fully agree with that. Yes, I fully would agree with that, because I remember enjoying the gameplay the first time round, but thinking the story was actually a bit nuts. But I actually followed the story fairly coherently throughout. It is nuts, and it is silly, and it is a bit OTT, but perfectly followable, perfectly legible. Understood what was going on the whole time. I actually found myself on various occasions sitting listening to the manuscript pages being read, which I don't know if I did last time. Like, yes, very much like. Although I will say, do not like Alan Wake as a person. Don't want to be his friend, and I do not like his wife either. Like it was the moment where you walked in. The two moments. It's one moment. The scene in the game where he wakes up and he's got a hangover is at the start of chapter 5, and he puts on sunglasses. So. If anybody has ever done that's had a hangover in their life and actually put on sunglasses, email into this show and tell me, because I think that is a thing that people don't do. The next thing is he was just like weirdly argumentative, and then he put on the TV show of him being interviewed on TV, and he was the most like sickly, bulky, like horrible human being, and he was just like, I was like, buy the book, it's good, or something like that. I was like, oh my god, you're making me want to vomit. So don't like Alan.
It's funny that Sam Lake is on that TV show though.
Who's Sam Lake?
They actually call him. Sam Lake is the like creative director at Remedy Games, but he's also Max Payne's face for Max Payne 1 and 2.
Yeah, sure. Is that who is on that screen?
In that TV
not playing
show,
Alan Wake, right?
No.
When
Alan Wake's on that chat show with that guy, he's sat next to Sam Lake, and at the end they go, Alan Wake, and we also have Sam Lake on the show, and he's sat next to him.
I must have not clicked when he said that. I didn't recognise the name. Yeah, okay, amazing.
I think he's in Alan Wake too, though, isn't he? Sam Lake.
We'll find out. I'm not sure.
Sam Lake's a dude, a proper dude. Alan Wake. What was I going to say? I think part of the reason that I just found out in doing some of the research that you'll have already heard, listener, on the previous pod. So this is repeated information. The reason I maybe didn't like it as much the first time around is it came out on the exact same day as Red Dead Redemption. So
that could
maybe
be a problem.
That fucked it.
Yeah, that may have done it. Because I always think of Alan Wake as a cult classic. Because
I think it is, because it sold like 125,000 in its first 2 weeks, whereas Red Dead sold 1.5 million.
Yeah, fair. It got eaten alive. Yeah, that makes sense. Refer back to the previous podcast, I guess, for more in-depth talk. Because I'm also aware that you and I haven't spoken about this yet, but I've got so much to say about it. But I best better hold back, right?
Yeah. So psychological horror game you've just done. So I don't actually need to
No, you're safe. Unless I pick that game and try and force it into another category, which I think is quite in like uniquely compared to the last draft we did. That is a risk with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would have put Alan Wake somewhere else, and I would have kept psychological horror for something else.
Shooter, yeah. Would you put it in there?
I would. No.
No. Oh.
No, I'd have put it in action horror game.
Oh, okay.
And actually, now you've done that. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, okay. Yeah, now you've done that. I'm going to go action horror game.
Okay.
I'm going to go... Oh, this is tough. I'm going to go Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
the original.
Good,
That's taken out my survival horror one, but I think I'm going to go for something different in there and be happy with it. We have not covered that one. We've covered the remake this year.
You're going for the OG.
Yeah, I'm going for the OG. I'm trying to get the purists vote.
Yeah, fair.
Those who don't want to be able to walk and shoot at the same time and are happy with that. That's who I'm going for.
You're going for the people that can't walk and shoot at the same time. Those dirty dinosaurs.
Those who like a laser sight from the get-go throughout the entire game. Or those who want to use a Wii remote. Whatever.
Yeah. Or what version is on iPhone these days?
Isn't that about to be the proper game?
Is it going to be the proper one? Great.
Yeah. I would quite like to see what the opening village section looks like in VR as well. But
yeah.
Talking about recent things to do with that game. But that is a game I look forward to eventually playing with you. Compare it to the
I'm very much looking forward to having to do that. Go back and play sort of the OG RE4, the OG RE2, and then the remake of 3 as well, I guess.
Yeah. So I was going to put Resident Evil 2 in my survival horror one, so I've got to think of something else now. I know you're not going to pick this because you have never talked to me about it. But one of my other choices for action horror game was a game called The Suffering.
Not sure what that is. I recognise it. I'm going to have to Google it.
This is like an OG Xbox era game. I think spiritual successor to Shadow Man, I believe.
Ah, okay.
But it's very dark, quite action heavy.
Baby heads on a dog's body? Is that something in this game? Oh my god.
Sounds about right, yeah. And there are moments in that game where you'll be walking around and it will just flash up like a horrible ghostly face on the screen and make a horrible loud noise. Get the fucking shit out of me. I just don't know if that holds up or if anybody cares. And also, I'm not going to put it in a genre where Resident Evil 4 exists. So,
looks an interesting game. We may have to pencil that in for a consideration meeting on future podcasts.
Yeah.
In an unlikely turn of events, I'm also going to pick action horror game.
He's not going to try and pick up another category.
This is just to make sure that I get.
Oh, they're taking a game out. Yeah,
I'm taking a game out because I think it probably fits. So there's action horror game. I think it probably fits in.
No, don't do it.
Horror shooter.
No, don't do it.
I don't know if this is the one you think it's going to be.
You're going to take my game, I think.
Dead Space remake. I'm going for
the remake.
Yeah, I think actually in hindsight, so like it was an interesting sort of thing going back and playing the remake for our podcast. And have we done the original, or had we just covered the original in various other guises of a Winner's You podcast when it was back just as a general podcast? I think it's when it was a general podcast. I got a vague memory of sitting on your bedroom floor saying how there was a sort of, and this is 2023 David talking, because I can't remember the exact words because I definitely wouldn't have used this turn of phrase, but almost like a sort of Castlevania-esque like bit where the Ishimura was this living thing that you have to backtrack and you end up learning what it was.
Oh yeah.
You don't do that in the way that I thought you did in the original, having but you do in the remake. In the remake, you do actually travel around, and there is an actual train that you move around on and go from place to place to place that doesn't the original is more level based than I remembered in my head. So to me, the remake is a really good, an awesome realization, and a sort of faithful, this is what we would have made if we had the power that we had.
It's an excellent remake.
Yes.
It really is. I don't know how well it even did numbers wise.
8 Callisto Protocol's dinner for starters, probably.
Well, that game's a disgrace.
Yeah,
Trying to give it away for free on PlayStation Plus now. I still don't want it. And I did buy it originally.
You almost finished it, yeah. You tried to get through it.
I did, yeah.
You did?
Yeah. Because didn't I return it? Is that what I did?
Yeah.
Or I traded it in so quickly, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm going to try and finish it before they come and pick it up."
Because you knew how excited I was for that game, and I remember you'd got it, and then you're just like, "Don't do it. It's not good." I was like, "Okay, it's gone. It's dead to me."
So that was your action horror game, wasn't it?
Yep.
So there's three categories. I don't think you're going to take my indie horror one, so I might leave that for now. You've done psychological horror already, and I don't know where you fit my first choice for that.
So maybe I don't
in
have
elsewhere. So I'm going to leave that as well. So I think. I'm going to go for horror shooter game, and I'm going to go Doom, which we discussed just before we started to record. That it
the OG Doom you're going for.
The OG. Yeah, I think because I think that was probably scary is a weird way to put it, but that was probably quite a scary entity when I was a little kid playing that in like one of these first sort of 3D first-person games versus the 2016 remake, which is just a fucking action romp.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly scary, but not really. But Doom, horror it spans a lot of different meanings and genres. Not genres, but subgenres. And to look at the aesthetics of Doom, it is, to me, like pure horror. It's all hell and demons. This is
probably niche, but I think my favourite of this sort of OG Doom franchise before it got Bethesda'd is Doom 64.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Shit. Oh well. Fucked it now, haven't I? I still think the original Doom is excellent, but yeah, you're right. Doom 64 probably is scarier. It probably is scarier than Doom. Shit, I completely forgot that existed. Oh well. But yeah, I mean, I don't need to say a lot about Doom, do I? I mean, it's fucking awesome. It's like, as David said, it's metal as fuck.
Yeah.
Because But at the time, people were going crazy about Doom. Like parents everywhere were not happy that it existed because it was, their kids running around doing disgusting gore, shooting up demons and horrible zombie blokes and all this kind of stuff.
Little did they know Mortal Kombat was on the horizon to drive people right over the edge.
That is true, yes. But the most horror thing about Doom, I think, is the little noises that you can hear, like the imps making like round the corner, where they're like,
yeah.
You're like, where the hell are you? So based off of our conversation before we started, your horror shooting is leaning in a different direction. I've got some backups there. Once we start getting to both of us picking from a category, we'll need to talk about like our backups for it. But I don't think we've actually done that yet. Or at least where we haven't talked about the backups already.
Yes.
That was garbled, but it made sense to me.
Yeah.
4 picks each. We're about to hit halfway.
Sense. I am going to go for... I'm just now going to have fun. Not even worried about this anymore. Because this is off the wall that I don't think it was on your list at all. I'm going for a free pick, and I'm going to pick Returnal.
Oh, shit.
Love that game.
I forgot that you actually liked it in the end.
Absolutely love that game. So good. I think probably it fits into shooter as well. It would also fit into horror themed. It wouldn't fit into anything else really. But yeah, Returnal. Absolutely. I feel like I'm trying to be honest to myself, and I think it's a free pick. Yeah, to me that. So yeah, that's where it's going. Such a good game. I don't really have. It's a run-based roguelike that is atmospheric, beautiful, just fun to play. Like the controls are nailed. They've nailed the controls. They're tight, responsive.
They really did.
The guns are fun to use. Yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah, we were supposed to. Maybe we weren't supposed to, but I think we frequently talked about it being a podcast game, and I just think time moved on past it, and we both played it, but we played it so far apart that it just didn't come together for us to actually discuss it. But it's incredible. It took me a real effort to finish it, though. It gets very, very difficult.
Yeah, it does. You're not wrong. It really does.
Yeah, you're right, though. That was not even considered by me at all. But it's got a real, like, alien feel to it, hasn't it? Like,
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
A real alien feel, and there's sort of like, it just feels sort of dark and dangerous to me, a lot of it. It's just a great game. That I fully accept that that's kind of why I put it in free pick. I fully accept that it's not a classic horror game, but I think it fits. Crashing on an alien planet with it's got psychological elements to it as well. I think we could have made an argument for that too.
I'm just trying to write down the categories that you used. That was free. So you've done scary, non-horror, survival, psychological, and then action, haven't you? You've done those.
Scary, non-horror, psychological, action, survival, free pick, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I am going to... And I think free pick there was probably the one chance that you had to get another game that I think I'm going to pick later on, but we'll discuss it when we get there. I'm going to go first-person horror game, and I'm going to go for Condemned Criminal Origins.
The first time you stole one of my picks, and now, I was going to say I don't know what I'm going to pick, but I do have options open to me.
Well, you had one that you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah,
I'm sure you don't actually want to say, but
I don't want to say it. I haven't eaten some humble pie on it, but I think it may be going in there because it's wholly appropriate. But Condemned, that I think. I will remember the abandoned mall level for the rest of my life. That is truly scary. That game.
A game I've never managed to finish because I'm too scared of it, but that we have to go back and play at some point.
Yes.
It works on Series X, so it's there. The option is there.
I've got memories of the hand-to-hand combat being extremely, not using the word.
It's fucking savage. It is absolutely savage.
Yes.
It's barbaric.
Yes.
It is disgusting. It is unsettling. Just like when you'd see people scurrying about in the distance, or like stuff just like cans and shit rolling around on the ground in front of you. Just like
it's the first game I remember doing that.
Yeah. Sound design was really good. Had an incredibly hilarious kicking animation from what I can remember, where his foot just kind of levitates at a 90-degree angle forwards, which no one kicks like that. And I'm pretty sure that the detective stuff wasn't terrible.
I don't remember it being bad. I think there's a moment where it sort of jumps the shark and goes from like atmospheric, creepy horror game into just like full-blown extraterrestrial horror.
Okay.
Which you're either into that or you're not. So I was going to say, like, I remember for me, I wasn't into it at the time, but I don't want to say I'm not into it because I think my taste may have changed. I may be more or less into it. Can't decide.
It's funny when we mentioned that TV show Dark the other day that my wife and I are watching, and when after the first episode, she was turned to me, she's like, "I'm so glad it just wasn't aliens again. I've got no time for that." Like, oh, okay. Didn't realise, but fair enough. So yeah, some people that is not their bag. Yeah. Right, we're halfway. So let's go through what we've done so far. So for me, I have done horror themed game Castlevania Symphony of the Night, 20th century horror game Parasite Eve, action horror game Resident Evil 4, horror shooter Doom, and first person horror I have done Condemned Criminal Origins.
I've got survival horror, where I've gone for Resident Evil 2 remake. Action horror, I've gone for the Dead Space remake. Psychological horror, I've plopped for Alan Wake. Scary non-horror game, we have Flying In at Bloodborne, and we have my free pick has gone, and I've picked Returnal.
David's up next again.
The next game I had in is 20th Century Horror Game, but I've just had a quick Google and I've got my dates wrong. So, I am going to pick horror-themed game. I think this fits. And I'm going to pick Silent Hill 2.
Interesting. I would have said that's just a horror game.
Okay. I'm trying to think of...
You've also taken my psychological horror game in that, so there's definitely a defensive
I didn't mean
mechanism.
to dismiss that. I'm trying to think of... So, can you give me a descriptor of horror-themed versus horror?
Like, it's a video game that is not in the horror genre at all, but has a theme of something to do with horror.
Okay.
So, I've done mine.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. If that's I've misunderstood that category. So if you want me to pull it out of there, I will pull it out. It doesn't really fit in any other categories for me. So
that's what I was saying. I thought you were going to use it for your free pick and just take it off me.
So yeah, so what I should have done is I should have put Returnal and horror themed. And then I should have put Silent Hill 2 in my free pick, but it's done now.
You sure?
Yeah. Let's go for indie horror. And I'm going to pick Inside.
Oh, that was initially in there for me. But then I Googled it and I went on its Wikipedia page and it didn't say horror on there. So I was like, oh, it's a scary non-horror game, but I think it's a horror game. I'm with you there.
It's got horror elements to it. There's something, there's like the sort of, what's it called? There's Orwellian horror, I think. It would be a good descriptor of it.
I just think that game is so filled with like just a sense of dread and oppression that it really unsettles me playing it. And you've got basically no escape, like no recourse to fight back against anything in it. It's true, like a survival, like you're just running to survive. Well, you're surviving until at the end. Everybody else has to survive.
The fear of loss of control, right? Because you get that there's like the little worms and stuff that go into your brain, and you go and you see the people marching in the background have obviously been impregnated by the worms and stuff like that. And let's not even talk about the ending, because there's a horror in that I cannot quite define.
Yeah, like body horror, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like other. I mean, because I guess I'm not going to pick them now. Like, Outlast was on my list for indie horror game. Cult of the Lamb was another one. But they're perhaps more horror themed. Well, certainly Cult of the Lamb is more horror themed than being horror. It's not very scary. Outlast.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Outlast
it's not a horror game, but it has
that I dearly want to put on my list because it is one of the scariest games I've ever played. But the problem is it's so scary that I have not actually been able to properly play it beyond like an hour. So it doesn't make it because I can't talk about it.
I guess not. That would definitely fit as a first-person horror game. If you don't want to say the other thing, I'd allow it. Inside, though, is an incredible pick. Like I said, I nearly had myself. So we're surely about to get to something now that you've already picked from, because I don't think there's anything left for me to do that you haven't chosen from already. Shit! Yeah, survival horror. Fuck. I haven't done that yet, have I?
Nope. There's probably one though that I feel like you've got the most options for.
Yeah. Okay. So because I've just looked at the Wikipedia page and it's written in the very first sentence, for survival horror game, I am going to go for Silent Hill 2.
Smart.
A game we need to play. Yes. We need to play that again to talk about it.
Yeah, great game.
And I want to play 3 and 4. And then, of course, there'll be a remake at some point next year. So maybe we do the original and then the remake. Is it next year? Must be.
Has to be. That TV show's coming out in a couple of weeks, I'm sure.
Oh shit! Yeah, we did a podcast, and I don't remember what it was we were talking about, but we rated Silent Hill incredibly highly.
I'm
I've
I'm massive on Silent Hill. I'm interested to see how it sort of my memory of that game is. It's like I'm going to like it like top 5, maybe of all time. But it's been so long now. I struggle to, and it's been so long since I played it, and I think I've forgotten so much about it that I think I may struggle to actually talk authoritatively about it. It's just incredibly scary and eerie and atmospheric. Psychological horror, it would fit in that.
That's where I had it originally.
Yeah, it's just incredibly. It's an incredibly powerful game that actually I think is like bog standard, middle of the road, and fine as they are. I think a lot of the sort of latter Silent Hill IP iterations have undermined how good that game is.
I think they have.
And
they know that, obviously.
Subsequent games, it's due for to come back.
Fuck. Oh no, I'm fine.
You're still in it. You think you're
I just thought I'd fuck something out of there. Thinking about something in the first-person horror game, because I'm pretty sure it counts. But no, I'm all right.
I'm sure I can leave. I've lost a game that I had written down because oh, there it goes. I've just confused myself with it. I think there's no chance you're picking my horror themed game, so I can leave that for now, I think. So let's go. So which that leaves me with horror shooter game, 20th century horror game, which I need to think about because that's the one that I was going to pick Silent Hill 2 for and then realised it came out in 2001.
Yeah.
And then I've got first-person horror game to pick. So let's
Which is the one I've just, thought about something for. Because we were talking about Silent Hill.
As much as I hate it, and as much as I hate to...
If you could just figured out what I was talking about there, by the way.
No, I just saw another game.
I just thought of a first-person horror game while we've been talking about Silent Hill. I'm not saying anything else.
I have just seen a first-person horror game that I really want to put in first-person horror, but I was going to say, well, I don't think it's the what. I think there's one game that is the right choice if I'm trying to win, but then there's the choice that I like better, and I'm going to go with the choice I like better because I don't care. How would you feel about? Are you going to put up a fight for me putting Prey into horror shooter game?
Horror shooter game?
Yes.
No, I had that in scary non-horror game, but I would say it absolutely works for horror shooter.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely. Great game.
Prey's in there. Love that game. So good. So atmospheric. I love that the game just sort of allows you to sort of push it, like the weapons mechanics. I think having sort of played that game a while ago now and had time to think of it, the weapons mechanics and the way it allows you to use your weapons and stuff to mess about with the environments and just sort of play with things is great. And it's certainly that thing where like you turn yourself into stuff, or the foam that allows you to traverse areas that you wouldn't expect to be able to get to. There are something incredibly terrifying. I think the enemy diversity is pretty poor, but there is still utterly scary to walk into a room and see some of those mimics run across your field of view and then disappear.
Especially when they get to be like the really brutal ones towards the end. There were elements of like areas of that space station, whatever it is. Well, I just didn't go in it for ages because I could see him. I was like, I ain't going in there.
Yeah,
I don't feel ready for it. And being isolated out, if you're like spacewalking as well, and you're like flying around in the 0G stuff, when you get attacked out there, that can be pretty.
Yeah,
I mean, just being out there in general is quite a sort of a scary feeling. Severely underrated.
Yeah, really.
And apparently has some DLC that's like amazing.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I think I saw when Deathloop came out, and they were talking about like, I saw SkinUp did a review of Deathloop, and he said like he hates it, and he was saying like this is a really bad time loop game, and if you want to play the type of time loop game that Deathloop should have been, you need to play Prey, whatever it's called. the
okay.
DLC for
Yeah,
Prey, because
okay.
it's apparently like a really crazy time loop thing. So I'd love to give that a try.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
That's it.
Oh,
I've resisted the pick, although, like I said to you, I think I said to you before,
horror shooter game.
the
Sorry,
pick
go
I'm
on.
resisting from is one of the scariest games I've ever played, even if I do have issues with it.
Oh, right, that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Horror shooter game. Left 4 Dead was one of mine.
Good shout. Good shout. Is that your
Or
pick?
Blood. No. I've done Doom, didn't I? But that was one of my
Oh.
backups. Was Left 4 Dead. Did you have any more for that? Because now we can kind of freely talk about it.
Yeah, Alien Isolation was one of the ones that I'd been considering for shooter game, because as much as I find that game frustrating and annoying, that there are little to no enemies in video games that have filled me with the dread and horror that encounter in a room that has the alien running about in it is just utterly terrifying, that game. So that was certainly up there, and that was the one that was sort of wavering between being the correct pick, because I feel like that is sort of retconned into being a game that people love, versus one that didn't review particularly well at the time. But my personal favourite of that is Prey. It sort of has horror as well as a fun game. So that was my pick. But trying to think, Outlast is another one. Again, I had it on my list but didn't pick it.
What? As a shooter?
Sorry, I was thinking first person again, wasn't I?
Oh, yeah. Have you done first person? You haven't done that one yet, have
I
you?
haven't done first person yet, no. So some of my picks I should shut my face, because some of those picks may still rear their head again. Soma is a game that I wish I could include in this list, but I've never played it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Next October, we can definitely pencil that in to be played.
Oh yeah.
So I have got to do scary non-horror.
Mm-hmm.
I've got psychological, I've got indie, and I've got free pick. There's my 4 left. One game I was really expecting to pick at some point, I don't actually think I will include anymore. So I will leave that category and maybe put it in there later. So what I'm going to do is go for indie horror game, and I am going to go with Inscription.
I was thinking about that.
That we've recently thought of an idea for later on in the year when it comes to Christmas time of doing a special episode where we both do our top 25 games ever each. And I initially put that in there, and I may not actually take it out again. I think that game is so unique. Like, I've not played anything else like it.
Absolutely awesome, that game.
Yeah. And genuinely, like, the beginning of the game is really, really spooky and just unpleasant to be involved in. When you're sitting across from Lecce, is that his name?
Yeah. There's something like intimidatingly sinister about him. Every so often he'll like say or do something, you're like, oh, this guy is quite scary. There's something about him. Yeah.
To make a game that's essentially a card game that spooky and unsettling is just a work of genius. And then the other shit that it throws at you later on, that's not quite in the horror the horror sort of tone, still brilliant.
Fully agree with you there.
The horror spirit of things, that's what I was going to say. So that was my indie horror game, wasn't it? Yeah. Three to go, right?
Yeah. I think I'm struggling with my 20th century horror game now because of the restrictions we have.
Because you can't pick a Resi game.
Yeah, I think
he's going for Clock Tower, lads.
Clock Tower is going to go in. No, I think I'm going to have to bend sort of the essence of the rules as far as possible, and the only one I can really feel good about picking for that is Dino Crisis.
I'm glad to see Dino Crisis is going in there somewhere.
If I could have picked another Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 3 would have probably gone in there.
Okay. Yeah.
But Dino Crisis is awesome. Really fun.
Yeah. There's another one we've done a pod about. We've done so many of these. Yeah. Right. So I have 3 to go.
Annoyingly, there's a game I've been excited about picking here.
Right.
That I've just realised there are... It could go somewhere, but I think I've got that one place picked for something else.
That's kind of how I've been feeling about something.
Make it,
yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling about something. I feel like I want to give you every chance to pick the one that I've been talking about, so I'm not going to go for that one just yet. Psychological horror's got one of 2 for me, and I really don't know which one I want to go for. So I'm going to leave that for now. And for now, I'm going to go for scary non-horror game, and I'm going to go BioShock.
Yeah, good choice.
Hellblade was another one that I had in that list, but I actually, as I said to you off air, I just don't like Hellblade. I didn't finish it because it did scare me. It made me feel really uneasy. I really didn't enjoy the feeling of that game to play, but I just don't think it's that fun a game in any regards. Like, it's not supposed to be fun, but I had like so little fun playing it. I just can't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, sure. I remember and again it's been so long I would need to actually go and play it again to feel like I could talk about it properly. But my sort of takeaway memories from that game is it had a really fun sort of gameplay loop. But it was a 5-hour game, and that gameplay, I think the combat mechanics were really cool. But it could have been doing with being a 3-hour game rather than a 5-hour game, I felt.
Yeah. It seems weird to feel like I couldn't make it through a 5-hour game, but I couldn't.
Yeah, feel you with you on that. I'm looking through horror shooter games here.
Have you still got to pick that? No, you've done shooter, haven't you?
Sorry, first person horror.
Yeah.
That's what I'm searching through.
Yeah, because Resident Evil 7 is gone. So is Village.
Yeah, I've got my Resident Evil pick anyway, so
I mean,
can't pick a Resident Evil. Oh right, okay, that's why it's. Yeah, you're right. No one's picked those. One that you're not going to pick, but was one of the scariest games I played briefly, was Phasmophobia, which I'm just going to give it a mention, but I'm not going to put it in.
You played that? Is that the online one?
Yeah, played it with the PlayStation a little bit. Well, Peaston specifically.
The one where it like says your name and stuff.
Yeah, basically,
right? Yeah,
you're a ghost hunter, and you sort of pick your ghost hunting tools, and then you go into this haunted house, and you've got to try and find out. You basically got to find out what kind of ghost it is and where they are, or something like that. And you've got all these tools to like. So you'll go and you'll have this thing that'll detect stuff, and you've got to leave it in a room, and then it'll like turn itself off and stuff, and you've got to go back in and turn it back on, knowing that there's something in there that might jump out at you and kill you. Oh my god. I was actually screaming out loud when I was playing that game. It shook me to my core.
Is it still jank as fuck?
It's jank as fuck, and actually when you figure out what it's doing, it just instantly it's got like an hour of utter terror in it.
Yeah.
And then after you get beyond that hour, you're just like, oh, this again.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You sort of get over it really quickly, which is a bit of a shame. But that hour was maybe some of the scariest hour I've ever had in games. Oh my goodness! I was actually genuinely like screaming out loud at the top of my voice, running out of the house in game, obviously, and like slamming the door.
Turned your computer off and run away.
Slamming the door on people I was playing with them and like locking them in the room because I just didn't want to be in there and like try to keep the ghost in the room.
Is that where you have to like try and speak for a microphone to the ghost?
Yeah, you got a microphone, you got to push a button and like try and call out its name and stuff, and if you call out its name it makes it angry and it'll come at you. You've got to run. Oh my god.
I wish that's a shame that you've figured it out that you couldn't get that again, because I'd love to have experienced that.
Oh my god, that game. I mean, it's there. If you want to experience it, I will go in silent and play it with you because I can
Yeah.
certainly help you ratchet up the tension. And actually, there's fun in that because I had friends that I was playing with that were doing that to us.
Yeah.
And there is fun in that because it's almost helpful to have someone there that knows what they're doing, because then you can like sort of like, as you're unable to think because you're so scared, there's someone just like poking you towards stuff and knowing you've got to go down stuff when the power goes out and you've got to go through the dark house. Oh my god, and down. Right, yeah, we need to play that one day, Alex.
Okay.
So I've got first person horror game that's not going to be Phasmophobia, and I've got horror themed game. I am So I've got 2 for horror themed games. One that I just want to put in there, and one game that I actually genuinely like. So I need to pick which one of those 2 I want to go in. So first person horror games, the one I need to pick. I had thought about Blood because that was a good game.
Yeah, that was in my shooter category.
Didn't make it. Outlast, obviously not played it enough. House of the Dead, don't think it's going to make it. I also thought Typing of the Dead,
fucking love Typing of the
Dead. But yeah, it's not making it. I'm going to have to put Alien Isolation in for first person horror game.
Okay.
Like I saying, I have issues with the game that I think are perfectly valid, but there are a few games that have elicited the dread that the alien does when you walk into a room and he's walking around.
It's a real tribute to fantastic AI design.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, the game is terrifying. It's just also annoying after a while.
Yes.
Well, and again, there's a podcast of ours out there if you want to hear exactly what we're on about. There's a game for that category that I tried to help you pick, but you've still not mentioned it. So
I've only got 1 category left to pick, and I've got you down as having 3, so I've missed a category that you've got here. What categories have you still got to pick from, Alex?
Psychological and free. And you've just done
psychological. So what have you got for non-scary? Not scary, non-horror.
I did BioShock.
That's it. And what have you got for indie?
I don't know if we even talked about BioShock that much, but that the big daddies and all that kind of shit, and when you get out of the bath sphere and you got that guy rattling his thing on the.
When I first played that game, I loved the fact that it's maybe just I wasn't very good at the game, but at the time, I loved how whenever you encountered a fight with a big daddy, sort of when you came out of the other side, you felt like you had just like survived by the seat of your pants, and you sort of got out of there just in time. It just sort of nailed that, where you're just like, oh my god, that was a ride.
Yeah.
And then,
it's so frantic as well.
Yes.
It's way more. I think we said that it's way more frantic than we remembered, with all the noise and just enemies swarming you from everywhere.
That was my favourite thing. It's like there's a donkey video that talks about everyone saying how atmospheric BioShock is, and then it just goes around with all the alarms and stuff going off, which is so right. But at the time, it did feel that way.
Yeah. It's obviously a very oppressive setting, that's for sure.
So what? Sorry, you've got free pick and psychological. What did you pick for indie?
Inscription.
That's it. Thank you. I must have stopped writing them down at some point. Okay, I'm caught up.
So I'm gonna go in psychological then, and it's one of 2. And the one that I think it's not going to be is Fatal Frame 2, or for us, it's Project Zero 2.
I wish I had played a Fatal. I think I said this before you started recording. I wish I'd played a Fatal Frame game.
Yeah, they are very, very scary.
We did. I'm sure we had a Fatal Frame game on the list to play at some point for the podcast, and it fell off for some reason.
I think I put one on there and then took it off because I was like, I don't want to make him buy this game because it's not cheap, and he might hate it.
Yeah, maybe probably it.
But if you've got a working PlayStation 2, don't think it's crazy expensive.
I do.
Might be one to look out for in York/Glasgow, I reckon.
Yes.
So it's either that for psychological horror or it's Layers of Fear, and I don't know which one to pick. Feel like the hipster weeb crew will go for Fatal Frame 2 the way that they won't go for Layers of Fear. But I haven't finished Fatal Frame 2 or any of the Fatal Frame games because it just scared me that damn much. And again, if I look at the Wikipedia page, it does not say psychological horror in there, even though it kind of is. But if I'm keeping it... Oh, there's a Wii edition, which we could play on Dolphin.
Yeah.
It's so funny that if you look at the genres on Wikipedia, it says survival horror and photography. All right, fair enough. So yeah, I think I am going to go for Layers of Fear. Yeah, I'm going to go Layers of Fear because that is a straight up psychological horror, and as listeners will know, scared the fucking ass off me.
It's funny.
I have no ass now. It's scared off.
I remember Gone Home scaring me more than Layers of Fear did, which is funny because it's not a horror game.
Yeah, well there you go. It's a scary non-horror game for you.
Yeah. Yeah, good choice, Alex. Fully on board with that. But again, check out the podcast, I guess.
Yeah. We've only just done that. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
I will say. I guess they will say the OG one's better, in my opinion, than the remake that they did.
Yes.
So it's now horror themed game for me.
Mm-hmm.
So Cult of the Lamb was on my list, but it's not going to make it. Loved that game. Really good fun. Whimsical and just that. It's just got a fun gameplay loop. Sort of marries roguelike with base builder sim, which is just fun. The game that I've been... This is the thing as well. Like, I think... So I've got two games here. I'm back to... There's one that I think people will definitely vote for. But it's not going in. Because like I'm just picking games that I want to be on this list rather than games I'm trying to win with. So that game's Until Dawn. That's the one I've been trying to... I really love, but I've been trying to like crowbar in. I just don't think I've got space for it. The one that is going in there is a game that there was no chance you'd ever picked, so I just left it to last. But Weird West.
Oh, okay.
That is a sort of top-down RPG that has... I'm forgetting the author now. What's the author with the cat with the N-word? We've already mentioned him in this podcast.
What? The author with the cat? Oh, Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's a Lovecraftian top-down RPG with like supernatural horror elements to it. But yeah, it's definitely not a horror game. It's a Wild West game. And the thing I love about that game is that this is another game that lets you sort of push at the boundaries of what it is. So like you can walk into a town and kill everyone in the town. Everyone in the town will stay dead. And the game is created in a way such that they'll have a sort of base quest giver, but you can kill the quest giver before they become a quest giver, if that makes sense, and not know who they are. And the game will find ways to give you the same quest in different ways, and it's just really smart that it allows you to sort of manipulate the people in the world and interact with them in different ways. And you change character, who you are throughout the game, and you can encounter characters that you used to be, and depending on who you are and how you act, they'll interact with you differently, and they can like join with you or go off, and you can end up killing them to get their stuff, and you pick up the stuff that you had when you stop being that character, or you can, like I say, make friends with them and stuff like that. And a really, really smart and interesting game that deserves more love than it gets. So I'm going to give it love, and I'm going to put it in horror themed game.
I did not know that Weird West is a genre.
Is it?
Because while you were talking about that, I've been sort of trying to sit here thinking, like, is that still a horror theme, or is it a Western theme? But when you look at what Weird West is, it is apparently a term used for the hybrid genres of fantasy Western, horror Western, and science fiction Western.
Interesting.
But my backups that I had for horror themed games, Devil May Cry, obviously because that's themed around.
Until Dawn isn't a horror themed game either, so I don't know why I had that.
It's I guess it is because it's like the theme is that it's a slasher film, but it's
a teen slasher, right?
Yeah, but it's more of like a point and click almost. Darkest Dungeon was another one that I had. That's obviously
That's a game that I have spent a lot of time with, but I've done the sort of introductory 5 hours a lot of times.
yeah, it's fucking hard. That's why.
Yeah, big fan of the idea of that game. I
Yes,
probably need someone to just sit with me for a bit with it that gets it.
I remember you playing that on your Switch when you stayed around my parents' house all those years ago.
It's always a game I download and take with me whenever I take my Switch places.
That and Slay the Spire is 2 excellent Switch games right there.
Yes.
The other horror themed game that I potentially would have picked had you stolen Symphony of the Night from me would be Vampire Survivors.
I wondered if that was going to make the list because I kept when I was googling horror games, it kept coming up. And I did wonder because you were hard into that game for about a week and a half.
Really was. Yeah. Right, that's your 10, right? So I've just got one more. So mine is my free pick, and I have 3 choices for here. One of which David has already mentioned, which is House of the Dead. The other is Dead Rising. And the last one...
Did you play that game after you bought it on Steam? How's that?
I haven't played it yet,
how does that hold up? Okay. Because that's one that I want to know how well it holds up.
Mm-hmm. I was watching a video the other day.
I get it now, I guess, is the...
Yeah, I felt that way too. Like I loved it when it came out, but I never really engaged with it properly.
I loved it till I ran out of time. Then I was like, "What the fuck's this?" And I think I put it down and never went back. But until I ran out of time, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and I loved the second one as well. That was really fun, like making that like hodgepodge DIY weapons that just made the game completely stupid.
I've completed, I think, is it 4? The one that's just a bog standard open world game.
Oh, that's supposed to be terrible, isn't it?
It's not
that
great.
One?
It's really bland.
Is that the one that's set at like Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a video I'll send to you later that there'll be some good bedtime watching for you where there's apparently an achievement in the game that is like just fucking stupid to get.
It's not like 50,001 people.
That's not quite like in what is that called in Gears? Insane or impossible?
KDB able to help us out with that.
Yeah. This is like you've got to survive in the game for I don't remember how long it is, but it's like real-time gameplay. You're talking like 12 hours or something, just without dying or going hungry. And it's a really interesting video that the guy did to try and like the methods you have to utilize to make that actually work is stupid. Like it's just ludicrous. So I'll send you that video and you'll see what I mean. Now, the other game that I could potentially go for free pick, if you're okay with it being classed as a game, that I kept trying to push you towards for first person was PT.
Yeah. I don't think I ever would have picked you. You're quite free to pick it. I think the reason it wouldn't have made mine is there's at some point it felt like more of a marketing tool, and I think the sort of having the hoops that you had to, I feel like the game was designed in a way that was supposed to stimulate internet discussion where people were sort of tearing the game down.
Yeah. Nobody really knew how to beat it for a while.
In my opinion, it sort of lost a bit element of its horror because of that. It was more of it was designed in that way to make people speak about it and become a marketing tool. And yeah, I think it lost some of its gaminess to it. I think the Resident Evil 7 demo had a slight tinge to that as well, with the fingers that people were finding it. Yeah. Fully would understand why you would pick it though. And it is a game that has hit legendary status that never actually got released, so it'll get you some votes for sure.
Probably the best lost game ever, I would have said. All right, I'm going to go with PT then. Purely because I actually, that's one of the few games that my wife and I have played together, and we were both absolutely shitting ourselves. And I think, as you say, it was a marketing tool. But I mean, has there ever been a cooler marketing tool than that?
Probably
I don't think I've resonated with anything more than I have with that one. That was
you're right though. The actual beginning of that game
well
where you're walking through the corridor and it starts to, and you realise that it's looping on itself, and every time you go into the corridor, something's different, and you start getting glimmers of people like that sort of stuff. I'm fully on board with. It's just the speaking into your microphone and shit like that I wasn't.
It's just speaking to the microphone.
Yeah. Oh, there's a bit.
Do you?
Yeah. Is it
I remember
Jareth or
that.
something? You've got to say something into the microphone anyway to get a certain ending.
Oh, maybe I didn't get that ending.
Yeah, and there's a bit where you sort of the hallway with them where you're walking around and you look up and there's someone up there.
Yeah,
Looking out. Oh my god, absolutely terrifying.
that's the worst bit. That is the worst bit. She's just right at the end of it. Yeah. Don't you have to like run quickly into a side room or something to get out of the way?
That, yeah.
Brr. Ugh. I've still got it though. Still on my PlayStation downstairs.
Sell it. Remortgage your house.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really, really arsehole-ish of Konami to completely just remove that from sale.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's money
It felt
just
spiteful
down the toilet.
didn't it?
Yeah, it was. It definitely was.
Yeah.
But they're so fucking in love with money. I mean, that would have made them more money than a pachinko. No, it wouldn't.
Vince McMahon would have left it up there and sold it.
Yeah, he certainly would. And then he'd get really upset when no one lets him play it anymore.
Yeah.
Because apparently he's recently just been ousted, hasn't he, from creative control, and he's really upset because he thought that selling the company or whatever would allow him his way back in after he got ousted for being a big dirty perv. And then what's actually happened is the UFC company have just been like, "Nah, you're shit.
Yes.
You're an old man. Piss off." Triple H is doing it.
I kind of hope WWE gets good again.
It's there's a potential for it.
Yeah.
People seem to be thinking it has been good recently.
Very interesting.
Jesus, I can turn anything into wrestling talk. Well, that was you who did that. You said Vince McMahon. So yeah, I'm not to blame. It's fine.
You don't worry. You've also talking on the wrestling talk. You've got a Don Callis Brown Note TikTok to look out for fans. So if you're listening to this,
Did you make it?
Not as good as you would have done it, but it's in. There's a Don Callis Brown Note in there. Discussion.
Did you? Oh, sorry.
You
didn't
basically
make the
you,
South.
you talk
You didn't
about
put the
Don
South
Callis.
Park together
Oh.
with the.
Nah,
Okay.
I couldn't be bothered with that. Oh, you basically just talk about it, and then I've got the Don Callis entrance.
Nice. That'll do.
Yeah,
That'll
that's
do.
good enough.
Yep. Right. That's the draft done. Let's go through our stuff. So what we'll do is, as we did last time, David will say, you just say whatever it is that you've got, and then I'll say the game I've got, and then you do it, and then I do it, and then yeah.
Survival horror. I've got the Resident Evil 2.
I've got Silent Hill 2.
Action horror. I've got Dead Space remake.
I've got Resident Evil 4.
Psychological horror game. My pick is going to be Alan Wake.
Mine is Layers of Fear.
First person horror game. I've gone for Alien Isolation.
I have gone for Condemned Criminal Origins. 2 Sega games there.
Strong. Scary non-horror game. I've gone for Bloodborne.
I have gone for Bioshock because David picked Bloodborne instead of me being able to do it.
Indie horror game. I've got Inside.
I've got Inscription.
Great game. 20th century horror game. Dino Crisis.
I've watched too much Peppa Pig recently for that to have meant anything else in my head when you said dinosaur there. Jesus Christ, that's one for the fucking dads, isn't it? Bloody hell. Luckily for him, David has no idea what I'm on about. Sorry, what was that? Oh, 20th century. I have got Parasite Bloody Eve.
Horror shooter game. I've gone for Prey.
I have gone for Doom.
Horror themed game. Weird West.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
And our free picks. I've got Returnal.
And I have got PT.
Another interesting and strong list of games there.
Yeah, 20 games that have the winner as you seal of approval.
Yes. Seal of acknowledgement I would prefer to give to Alien Isolation.
It's a very effective horror game that we didn't enjoy very much. I think we still enjoyed it more than IGN. Didn't they give it 4 out of 10?
Yeah, they hated it.
Yeah. So they took all the flack way before we even got involved. Yeah. So nobody will ever come at us for that.
That's true.
And you kind of redeemed yourself by putting it in there now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I say, I think it's a game I think about that game far more than it deserves to be thought about.
It's rent-free in both our heads.
It is. Constantly think about that game because I've gone for I simultaneously hate it and appreciate it at the same time. and I find that very frustrating. And I can't quite equate those things in my head.
The thing I like the most about Alien Isolation is that we've both finished it and we can talk about it with experience and never have to touch it again.
Yes,
that's what I like about it.
Its greatest achievement, aside from being one of the scariest games I've ever played, is, I say this all the time, loving faithful recreation of an alien world, like the Alien universe.
What a tie-in game! It's fucking outrageously good.
It's just it is
perfect.
Yes, yeah, genuinely perfect for walking around that ship.
I just wish it wasn't so interrupted by an asshole that ruins the game constantly. Just go away. I want to look at this 70s version of the future computer, please. Piss off.
Instead of hiding in a fucking air vent for 15 minutes.
I know what air vents look like. They haven't changed. Piss off. I want to look at the little fucking bird thing with water in it, like going up and down on somebody's table. You twat.
I can't believe I got through that game. But we did it. We've made it to this.
What an ordeal that you were put through for that. For you, dear listener, David nearly lost his sanity.
And I guess that brings us to the end of another episode of the Winner Is You podcast. If you liked what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to us on your podcast feed of choice? Or if you prefer to imbibe your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and search for a Winner Is You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for your bi-weekly dose of our Winner Is You chattery, you can also follow us on the website formerly known as Twitter at Winner Is You Pod, and you can even send us an email to tell us how wrong we were about our gaming opinions, particularly tonight when we're listing games, to winnerisyoupod@gmail.com. Alex and I also have formerly known as Twitter accounts at DavidSmiley1 and at SuperThrillix respectively. We also have TikTok now. Just search for Winner Is You. It'll pop up. It's fine. Any housekeeping, Alex?
Other than to go onto our Twitter that David's just mentioned and vote for whose list is better. Should be up by the time you hear this. And then I'm going on holiday.
You're off on holiday. And I actually think you looking at this, you may be safely be able to say you're able to win again. Something you can't say on your other podcast. So maybe
I never fucking win. Ever. Have you voted on that? Have you voted on the current one?
Not the current one. The problem is, though, Alex,
do you find yourself just voting for me, or do you vote for?
Yeah, I just generally vote for you because, I generally agree with you on it.
Yeah.
If you want to check, if you like video game news, check out my Substack. Head over to Substack.
Do it.
Check Super Smiley. I write a mostly Friday. Video game news roundup. Sometimes it appears at the weekend, but you do get it. Where I can tell you who's lost their job each week, which feels like the only thing I'm doing at the moment.
Well, that's the only thing the industry's doing.
Yes. And I guess on that bombshell, I've been David. He's been Alex. We have been a Winner Is You, and I am out.
Bye.